Hi, everyone. Welcome to Off the Podium. My guest today is John Daversa from Miami, I believe. Welcome to Off the Podium.
I am in Miami. Thank you very much.
Well, the first question, the big question, you were in LA, a big city with lots of musical opportunities. Now you're in Miami, which is another big city with lots of musical opportunities. Why the move?
Well, the main reason was a teaching opportunity across school of music. I teach at the University of Miami. And so this position came up, and it was just such a, I saw it was fertile soil. I could see the opportunity that was in front of me. It's an incredible program. The faculty is so uh, adept at their craft and collegial, and the students are playing at such a high level. I just saw a lot of potential that we could do together. So that's what took me there, and I never thought I would leave Los Angeles. I was very comfortable with my musical life there. It's a bit of a leap of faith.
Yeah. Well, how are you coping with the situation? Because you're an active performer, you're an educator. What are you doing, and how are you managing to still be active in music and teach and with the current situation?
No, I'm sure I'm doing what most of my colleagues are doing. The hub uh, of my work is chairing the jazz department at Frost. So a lot of my energy has gone into just making sure that we're all teaching online and finding creative solutions to the challenges that presents.
Yeah.
And 1,000 phone calls talking with people and brainstorming and making the best out of the situation for our students, for their education and their future in a world of music. And what a great with every challenge provides an amazing opportunity to grow. So we're trying to look at it in that way. So just spending an energy there, and then for me, quite frankly, I mean, for so many of our musician friends, this is just critical not to be able to work and perform and make a living in the standard ways that we usually do. I'm very grateful that I don't have to rely on that right now. So, for me, it's been a moment where I can really go within, and I've been pushing so hard for so long that just the idea of being home it sounds awfully good, and it's an opportunity for me to get a bit more into recording and writing at home. I used to, I used to be working with Pro Tools and getting those chops together in sound design with the EVI, the electric valve instrument, turning knobs all day. And at a certain point, it was taken all day, and I had to just prioritize other things that I wanted to do. And there were so many, the engineers in our business, they can do in 2 minutes what it takes me 2 days, and they do it so artistically that I said, okay, you do that, and I'll do this thing. So now, it's given me the opportunity to actually take the time to learn Logic and Pro Tools and get that that part of my game together. And also, I'm just, there are a couple projects coming up that I was already writing for, and I didn't have time. I'm always writing on the airplane or in transit, so I'm able to take a little bit more time to really craft how I want to craft. So that's exciting too.
Yeah. Well, I do want to talk about some of your albums, but and I've known about you for quite some time, but I didn't know about this album. I didn't know about the album called I Love the 405. So
Yeah.
for those who don't know LA, for those unfamiliar, well, tell us about the album and also maybe about the title.
Well, it's just a single, really. I had me and my business partner had a recording studio in LA, in Burbank. That was probably very late 90s, 98, 99. And I went to Europe in 2000, so it was right before that. And we were putting together these demos to demonstrate different styles of tunes. And I said, well, I'll write a country tune, and then I'll write some sort of traditional R&B tune, and we'll write, all different kinds of styles, so we could play these demos. And my friend played drums and guitar, and I played everything else. So we would combine and create these tracks. So one of them was a country, like quasi country tune, and the subject was "I Love the 405." And I came up with the idea when I was driving. I used to teach in Valencia, like 7 o'clock on a Wednesday night, and I lived in Culver City, in Mar Vista. So making that drive, I wrote it pretty much all the way there, and then we recorded it. And then later on, some other friends of mine, years later, they heard the track and thought it was hilarious. So we decided to put a little video together, so you can find it on YouTube. We did the video, with one of the first iPhones that could take video. I just chopped it all together with iMovie or something.
Yeah.
Just having fun. I grew up in Oklahoma, so that country stuff is deep in my blood.
Yeah. My favorite album cover of all the albums that you have, well, you have lots of interesting album covers, but the Wobbly Dance Flower. That's a cool album, and that's a great collaboration. Tell us about how that all came together. Maybe about the album cover, music and musicians.
Well, you probably saw my daughter watering the plants above me just now. She when she was about 5 or 6, I knew I was going to do that record, and I was just kind of making conversation with her, and I said, I'm writing this song, and I just don't know what to call it yet. And without blinking an eye, she said, "Oh, Daddy, call it Wobbly Dance Flower." And I thought that was, for such an off-the-cuff answer, so out and brilliant. So that became one of the tunes, and then it became the name of the record, and then I had her draw. I said, "You could draw a Wobbly Dance Flower," and so she drew all the artwork. She's very proud of that. But yeah, I wanted to do. That was after this huge production I did with the Beatles music, Kaleidoscope Eyes. It's just a huge project. I wanted to do a small group thing after that was not quite as writing intensive. I always wanted to do something with Bob Mintzer, and he's been such a big influence in my life as a mentor and a musician, just human being, and to get to collaborate with him on something we had talked about for a while. So I didn't know what I was going to do. I just found a couple of days that he happened to be free and booked it. And then I, of course, wrote the music on the plane out there before the sessions. And I wanted to write, a lot of music that was, not going to be a science project kind of thing. It was going to be things that because we weren't going to have any rehearsals. It was just going to be go in and do it. So let's do a rhythm changes tune. Let's do a blues thing. Let's just do stuff that we really understand the idiom and make it feel good and play as deep as we can on these things.
Yeah. And
that's why I put Donna Lee on there, because I one of my biggest influences is Jocko playing Donna Lee, those live, and Bob's playing bass clarinet with his chorus on the bass clarinet, and I thought that was so cool. And I thought, well, what if, and there's the controversy too. Like, I don't know what's true or what's not, but Miles says that he wrote Donna Lee, right? And Charlie Parker took credit for it. And then there are all the tunes that Miles took credit for that he didn't write. But I was thinking, if it was Miles' tune, maybe he would have played it really slow, and slowed down the tempo and just chilled out a little bit. But to get to do that with Bob was certainly a dream come true. And then all the rest of the players, Gene Coy, he's been playing drums in my small band and the big band since I met him, since I heard him play 2 notes when we were going to school at Cal Arts. Jerry Watts, is the foundation of all my groups, and I knew I wanted an organ B3 kind of sound on this record, just to I wanted something that just brought joy when you hear it. Something about the B3 that does that. And so I've known Joe Bagg for for a long time in LA. We used to play with Jack Sheldon, his big band. So I know Joe would throw down, and Zane Carney's played in all my projects for a long time.
Yeah,
I'm missing. Yeah, so that's all that. I mean, it's really kind of like a family coming together, and just that record almost feels like, when you have dinner with your family and then you go play music and jam after it. Like that's kind of what it feels like to me. Just people coming together, sharing music.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. Since you mentioned the Beatles, let's just go to the Beatles, and that's a fantastic album. And one of the things that I kind of regularly do in the 80 plus episodes, especially with musicians who are actually performing artists, I listen to their records and right before as well. And that's the one I was listening to right before I got on with you.
Cool.
And so tell me about the Beatles. I'm assuming they're a big inspiration. That's why you even made this album. But how did the idea of this even come about?
Well, we'd been playing in LA for a while with my big band. I felt like we were getting a good amount of traction, but just in LA. And I was just trying to figure out how to get more people to listen to what we were doing. I felt like we were doing some new things with that particular genre, the big band. And actually, a friend of mine called me, and he would normally go down to the Big Potato and hear us play with the big band, and loved what we were doing. And he said, "Hey, I actually, myself and my business partner I think they bought 3, maybe 5 of the licenses to these 5 old Beatles tunes." And he was saying, "I want to get these things placed, and I don't have a big band arrangement, a recording that I could use for these things. Would you think about doing one of these and do it your way? Do it with your spin?" And I said, "Of course, I'd love to do it." And then I thought, well, shoot, why don't we just do a whole record? And I know the idea of covering Beatles tunes is not a new one. It's been done 1,000 times, if not 1,000,000 times. But there's a reason for that. Those melodies are just so rich, that they're so timeless. And I love those recordings like everybody else. I just felt like, I feel like I can reimagine these things in a new way. I mean, wouldn't that be quite the challenge to find a new way to say these beautiful songs? So I was kind of into the challenge, and I also felt like even if people think they've heard every Beatles cover they've ever heard, they might just be curious enough just to check it out. And then I can say, "Made you look." And if I can get you to look, then I know I got you.
Yeah.
And it actually did that. So, and I had so much fun digging into that catalog. I listened to all the production and listened to all the interviews and clippings, and just kind of tried to get as deep into the psyche of the musicians and the music as I could. And then listen to it with my headphones in the middle of the night, and then I let go of it, and then the music that started coming into me through my own filter. And with that project, I gave myself a license to write anything I wanted to in terms of instrumentation. Because I ended up writing for the sax section. It's actually 6 pieces, and the doubles go from bassoon and alto flute, bass clarinet, bass saxophone, everything.
Wow.
Really exploring these sounds, and there's tuba, 4 trombones, 5 trumpets. There's a chorus of singers, percussion, 2 guitars, a string section. I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but it's just going to happen. We're going to make this happen somehow.
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of the way that all of the musicians just came together for the sake of music on that project.
Yeah.
And I raised the money that we could on Kickstarter. On Pledge Music, and the support for that was, I'm so grateful. I really feel like it was a lot of good faith that had to do with the good work that we'd done up to that point. Say, okay, here, John, go do it. make it happen. Yeah, an amazing project. I mean, not the just the organization of it and the coming together. I'm not trying to quote John Lennon there, but the coming together of all these people for the sake of something greater than themselves.
Yeah.
You know, I remember there was so much love in that room. We recorded it live at Alva's in San Pedro. Before we were about to record the first tune, you know, it was there was just such an energy in the room. It was so thick, the love of what we were about to do. I don't know how to describe it, you know. But I felt like the whole place was just going to levitate. I've never felt anything quite like that.
Yeah.
And I swear you can feel it on those recordings.
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing that I keep thinking about with big bands is I wish there were more big bands, and I almost feel like there are less and less big bands. Is that true, or is it just my perspective on it? I mean, are there enough big bands out there? I wish there were more, but are there enough?
I don't even know what that really infers. Are there enough big bands out there? I guess if you're pining for more, there aren't enough.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I'm asking is because I'm in Seattle now, and there were a couple of big bands, and one of them, I actually a trumpet player who used to run it, and the band no longer exists, and just not enough venues to perform, and I don't know.
I was just up there in February, and we were talking about. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's such a beautiful art form, you know, and genre. Absolutely, and there's so much that can be explored. I know, you know, when I grew up, you know, I learned to play in schools, you know, and so the main ensemble is the big band, which you kind of learn how to learn. You learn ensemble playing, and you learn how to write, and you learn how to play with people, you know. But we play a lot. We played some great material, but I always felt like there's so much more you can do with this. You know, I like the idea of with the big band or just a large ensemble in general with improvised music, because the more tethered you are to written material, ensemble stuff, you know you're going to go back to that place that's just written down. And yes, it's a different thing every time you play it. It's a different moment, but it is what it is. You know, it's that written music. So that polarity with when it comes time to improvise, we can go anywhere. You know, we can go completely out to Jupiter. I'll just speak about my own band. Like that's how I treat it. You know, it's like the tree trunks are the same length on the bottom as they are on the top. So I feel like however far out we take it in the improvisation, I know I've got my beacon, I've got my landmark that we're gonna hit this thing when I say we're gonna hit this thing. So I love that dichotomy in the performance structure, because a lot of times in the small group, it'll get so out, and then there's just not that big, huge organism to ground it. So the ensemble, the writing can really ground that. And so, you know, there's so many. I mean, I hear so much great music. Miho Hazama was just here in Miami. I had her come out. We played a bunch of her music. I think she's doing some incredible things. You know, really just fresh. Just feels fresh. And you know, there's a gentleman that we're going to do a project pretty soon. It's mostly orchestral, but it's large ensemble jazz stuff. And it's, you know, it's brilliant and it's different. It's fresh. It's a new idea. So not the orchestra is not a new idea, but what he's done with it is a new idea.
Yeah.
So, you know, what's difficult, as you know, I'm not stating anything that no one doesn't know. It's just hard to support it financially. So many people. And the idea of everybody all playing at once, you know, instead of overdubbing these things, because it's a lot less expensive if everybody just overdubs their part, or two people play four parts, or, you know, but it doesn't quite feel the same.
Yeah.
Or using more, you know, digital uh, tools to make things happen. It doesn't quite feel the same. But it's blending of these worlds, just like we're living in this world now where everything is digital, because of all of the isolation. So, how are you going to make that into a positive thing? But yeah, it's hard to, I've never taken a big band on the road yet.
Yeah.
I've taken, 4 or 5 pieces with me, and then we put, local musicians around those folks. But, to be able to tour with a big band, it's I'm certainly not at that level now. And even the big pop acts, aren't traveling with 25 musicians.
Yeah. Well, leads me to the American Dreamers album, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Beatles album that you had was nominated for a Grammy Award, right?
Yeah, 3.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the American Dreamers and how that whole concept came about, and it's such a beautiful project, an amazing project, and I'm so happy that you had all the success that you had with that project.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was well, it still is an incredible journey. It came out of a conversation, a conference call I had with producer and one of the CEOs of the label that I was on, small label in LA, BFM Jazz. Awesome, amazing people there. And we were just brainstorming the next project, and somebody mentioned, what about the DACA recipients? What about the Dreamers? Could we do something around that? And it just clicked. It's like, yeah, and we all been following it. It's something you read about, and you see these human stories, and you just go, wow. It's like, and being in Miami here, and there's so many in LA, and everywhere. This is a country like it or not. I mean, we all kind of got. My great grandparents came over through Ellis Island, and it's a land of immigrants. And you read these stories about folks that the kids came over when they were 3 years old, 5 years old, for all kinds of different reasons. Like one of the people that was on the record, they came over because their sister needed medical treatment, and then they had to stay longer because they didn't. They had to get a second treatment, and they had to make that decision: are we going to stay? And then we'll figure it out. We need to get this thing done. And then all of a sudden they're here, and so she went to school here. She works here, but she can't get a driver's license. She can't. She's in fear. Whereas an issue that I just wanted to make the statement that this is human stories, and I said, well, what if we could have these American musical themes, and let's just tell the human story through music. And a lot of these folks, I'm sure, are musicians, and so then we went on this wonderful journey to find dreamers in this country that were musicians, and we found so many incredible people, and they told their stories, and I wrote the music. It's a pretty grand gesture in terms of the writing and everything. I did everything in 6 weeks while I was still teaching, just in the middle of the night, and mostly on airplanes, like everything else. And you put it together, and I wrote all the music, and a lot of the Dreamers, they participated after. I was already touring through a lot of different states, so whenever I would go to a place to play or do a concert, then I'd find out who the Dreamer organizations were in that area, and call them up and see who would like to participate in what we're doing, and ended up, going to 17 different states, 53 Dreamers, 17 different birth countries, all with amazing stories, amazing people.
Wow.
Trying just to work this out and looking for a way to, to do the right thing for themselves and for the country they live in, for society, and for, our models of being a good citizen. So I'm still in touch with all these amazing people. Those bonds are tight. But that was the idea, just to really portray the human story.
Yeah. Well, some questions that are sort of a standard at this point with my podcast. A life-changing moment for you. It could be a musical moment. It could be a personal moment that you would like to share.
A life-changing moment. That's tough. That's tough. I mean, it seems like there are just 1,000 million billion micro adjustments along the way that have taken me to this place. I'm not one to look back a lot, and so that makes it a little bit hard to actually look at those defining moments.
Yeah.
But I came from two musician parents, and that certainly sculpted the way that I view the music business and making music. I saw as a kid that, okay, if I'm going to do this music thing, I'm going to do it on my own terms. I don't want to be reliant on the phone ringing.
Yeah.
I want to create a space for myself where I can really support myself and do the music that I love to do and be of service to others.
Right.
I think that paved the way for me to want to make music that really provides the purpose and intention to the rest of the world. That'll be of a positive difference to folks. That certainly brings me purpose.
Yeah. And I was going to say advice to young musicians, but you sort of answered that question. That's an advice to young musicians, I would say. If we were to turn your phone on, or your iPad, or whatever you use to listen to music, what are some of the last pieces or songs that you've been listening to?
It's pretty varied. I just was listening to an old weather report thing. D flat waltz. I hadn't heard that forever. Boy, that feels good. And I was listening to an old Huey Lewis tune before that. That I love the production. And I was listening to Glenn Gould, a bunch of his recordings. I've been trying to learn some Bach on the piano to be able to get some fugues to happen, which is slow going, but I'm just absorbing and learning so much. Just going back to Bach, how those things are constructed.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of things.
Yeah, well,
and I've been writing a lot, so a lot of what I'm listening to is in my own world too.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I want to know what's next for you. You've done all these diverse projects in your career, from Beatles to the American Dreamers and everything else, and you've collaborated with so many artists. What's next? What is something you want to do next that you haven't done, or what's something that you're working on now that you want to share?
Well, there's so much I want to do. My goodness. The next couple things, as soon as we can get in the studio and record, we're going to do a bolero project. I've been blessed to get to work with and get to know Gonzalo Rubalcaba, who I just adore, and Daphnis Prieto, who teaches at Frost now. So we're going to do a bolero project that's all about bringing the family together. So I'm writing several pieces that have to do with my family, and Sammy Figueroa is going to play as well. His father was a famous bolero singer, so he's going to be involved with that. So it's all, the bolero is really a music, the ballad, right? It's the music that the families would play after the dinner table, like I was talking about. So I think this moment where it's really about togetherness and families kind of relearning how to be together again, all in the same house.
Yeah.
It's an appropriate time to do that. So that's what's coming up directly next. And then after that, I'm going to do it's a jazz trumpet concerto that for full orchestra and rhythm section.
Wow.
That I've got to practice my behind off to try and get that together. That's coming up way too soon. But it's all written, and it's actually it follows the composer's life with a special needs child, and who is autistic, and so his son came up with all of these motivic cells that the orchestra piece is built around, and it's a really touching story. So
wow.
I'm so grateful to and honored to just be part of that, and I hope I can serve it justice with the performance. I'm really excited about that. It's a really deep, moving story to be part of. It's 12 movements.
And maybe I missed the composer. Who's the composer?
His name is Justin Morel.
Okay.
And Justin is a brilliant composer. And I've known him all of my life, literally, because his father is a great jazz guitar player and played in the studios in LA. My father played trumpet in the studios in LA, so they knew each other, and that's how we became good friends. We went to high school together and college together. So we're coming together again now to collaborate on this meaningful project.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Those are the next couple things. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to talk about anything else? Do you have anything else you want to share with us?
No, I want to share that I'm grateful for you bringing all of musicians together in these podcasts. It really helps us all stay connected, and sometimes every one of us needs inspiration from the other to keep going, or even to see what's possible, or just to see the psyche that the music comes from. It's really inspiring, and for you, I want to just share my appreciation for making this happen and providing that platform for us all.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And hopefully one day after everything is done, we'll meet in person and do this in person. That'll be fantastic.
You got a deal.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day.
Okay, you too.